Next, let us talk about some cognitive and intellectual disabilities. So in the exam, you'll be given these words like dyslexia, and you'll be asked if a child has dyslexia, then what is the kind of problem that the child will face, or what is the difficulty that the child has. Or you'll be given a statement like this about a specific difficulty or a specific situation that the child is facing, and you'll be asked what kind of disabilities does this child have. So you should know the words and the meaning of these words. So let's start with dyslexia. Here you have to focus on lexia. Lexia relates to reading. So dyslexia means the difficulty in reading. So the child is able to understand what you're telling him or her. The child is able to speak properly, but the child is unable to read, not because of any visual issues. Right? The child is able to see the letters, but the child is not able to connect those written words with the words that he or she is speaking or hearing. So difficulty in reading is dyslexia, and dyscalculia is difficulty in mathematics. It can be difficulty with numbers or difficulty with mathematical principles or processes like addition, subtraction. So dyscalculia. Calculia, you can remember calculator. So dyscalculia means the difficulty with mathematics. Then dysgraphia. So graph is where we draw or write. So dysgraphia is the difficulty with writing. It can be bad spelling or poor spelling, or it can be poor handwriting, or it can be the difficulty in writing what the child is thinking. Right? So dysgraphia is difficulties with writing. And then dyspraxia. So dyspraxia affects the fine or the gross motor skills. So fine motor skills are where we use the smaller muscles in the body. So it can be writing or it can be painting. And gross motor skills are where we use the larger muscles of the body. It can be running, jumping. So a child with dyspraxia may have difficulty with fine motor skills or gross motor skills. For example, the child may be unable to write or draw or hold a pen properly, or the child may not be able to run properly, right? Or the child may have difficulty in planning and coordinating, that is eye-hand coordination. For example, if you throw a ball at a child who has dyspraxia, then the child might not be able to catch a simple throw, right? Whereas other children are able to. So that is because of the lack of eye-hand coordination. So these are all symptoms of dyspraxia. And then comes aphasia. So these are two words, aphasia and dysphasia, that you have to remember. Aphasia means aphasia, that is complete loss of speech and comprehension abilities. The child cannot speak. And dysphasia is the deficiency in the generation of speech, language, or sometimes also in comprehension. So language related disabilities are aphasia, that is complete loss of speech and comprehension, or dysphasia, which is a deficiency or partial loss of speech, language, and comprehension. Moving on, these are also some of the cognitive and intellectual disabilities which are reasonably important because occasionally you will find questions on these as well. The first is auditory processing disorder. So auditory processing disorder, you know, it is auditory. Auditory means sound. So the child is unable to process sound. That is, the child is unable to understand sounds. So auditory, sound. Visual processing disorder. The child is not able to make sense of what he or she is seeing. Right? It is not just limited to reading, but beyond that, the child is not able to understand the information that he is getting through his or her eyes. So that is visual processing disorder. Next, non-verbal learning disabilities. That is, the child has a problem with motor skills, or the child has visual spatial skills. So the child is not able to think in 2D or 3D, or the child has a very poor social skills. And these are all because of some cognitive or intellectual disabilities. So there are plenty of non-verbal learning disabilities that children may have, which have different types of symptoms. And then we have something called ADHD, which is also quite prevalent these days. So ADHD means attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So children with ADHD are hyperactive. So they cannot sit in one place, they cannot concentrate on any one thing, they constantly keep moving, they constantly keep doing things. So they have difficulty in paying attention. So if they are in the classroom, they cannot sit still in one place, and they have difficulty in controlling their behavior. They can suddenly say something, they can suddenly throw something, or they keep moving around. So they have difficulty in sitting still and controlling their behavior. So that is ADHD. And then we are talking about autism spectrum disorder, that is ASD. Now it is called autism spectrum disorder because autism can be of various degrees. It can be mild, it can be severe. So there is a spectrum or a wide range of autism related disorders. So that is called autism spectrum disorder. So this is a developmental disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact. That is, the child is not able to communicate or interact with others properly. So that is autism spectrum disorder. And then there is hyperlexia. So hyperlexia means children can read very fast, right? But they are not able to understand what they are reading. They can say the sounds that the words mean, but they can't understand the meaning of those words because their speech or their thoughts have not caught up with their reading speed. So they can read very fast, hyperlexia, but they cannot understand what they have read. So these are some of the other types of cognitive and intellectual disabilities that you may see in the exam occasionally.